about principles. But my work was this original argument that the bank gives up nothing of lawful consideration, no debt exists to the bank. And, I've had just a jillion people take that idea directly from me or indirectly from me and run to do something else with it. And while I want to help with resolution of this problem, my challenge here, if you followed along well, is that I have to make someone understand something. And that is that they're using arguments for a just currency, and yet they themselves are intending to divorce themselves from the very concept of currency. And those things, those ideas, are incompatible. They're inconsistent. They're self-contradicting. You see, it's a useful thing for us to be rewarded justly for our contribution to the pool of wealth. That is, whatever we specialize in, we put into the pool of wealth, and we take in our commerce, in our commercial affairs, from the pool of wealth equivalent to that. Now, people who argue that this is wrong could only have one possible object, and that is to take more from us unless they intend to take no more from us. The thing is that mathematically perfected economy is the only means of ensuring that no one who wants to take more from us can do so. You produce something, whatever it is. Someone comes to your shop. They take your entire production. They don't even need it. Mathematically perfected economy protects all of us from that. Because if that person hasn't produced likewise, which is likely why they want so, mathematically perfected economy is the accounting system that says, no, you haven't produced that. So what these people are arguing against, totally futilely, is that money is bad when the rectification of money is the very thing, the very only thing even, which can protect us from all of this, from all possibility of abuse. So to dream that we aren't subject to that and that we don't need protection from that is hideous. It's preposterous. To react against the present obfuscation of the currency as if it represents money is our own wrong. You see, it is a process. The obfuscation of money that we are subject to is a process which perpetually multiplies falsified indebtedness as a means of a perpetual escalation of dispossession. What we're really against is any possibility of dispossession, and to divorce ourselves entirely from a concept of accounting, which is all that mathematically perfected economy in the end amounts to, is to open the way for unrightful dispossession. So mathematically perfected economy is our only protection from that. And it's just simply preposterous to claim, you note there was no argument. This man just simply said that all things just somehow balance out. Well, they do balance out in mathematically perfected economy. So how could they balance out if you deviate from that prescription for mathematically perfected economy 1 iota, even 1 iota? How, for instance, can you deviate from payment for property you're consuming at the rate of consumption 1 iota and not commit an offense against someone? Indeed we do. So that's why it's so important to realize that mathematically perfected economy resolves all these things. If indeed someday in the future mankind, women and men together, are perfected, we all achieve perfection somehow, and I wish we could, but we haven't. If someday we did, how would we conduct our affairs? Well, I can tell you that what my principles are would be that if I received something from you, if I took something of your production, I would feel a commitment to deliver to you likewise. In fact, if there were any question which would be injected into our affairs by the possible lack of an accounting system, I would even feel compelled to give more than I had received so that there was no possible perception of offense. That's just me. But what mathematically perfected economy does is tokenize our contribution to production so that we each receive accordingly. And it does this simply by eradicating exploitation, which is the very thing which is perceived to be wrong with, quote, money, unquote. The money that we speak of is this present obfuscation of the currency, which begins by taking more from us than we can possibly receive for our own contributions to the pool of wealth. We pay 5 houses or 4 houses for 1 house over the course of just whatever 20 or 30 years, after which we incur a debt of 5 houses or 4 houses, whichever the case was. So that's what's wrong with money. That isn't what's wrong with all money. That's what's wrong with an obfuscation of money, a purposed crime against us. So this is what we have to resolve. If you want to argue that money is the problem, that is, any possible concept of money is the problem, then you are against solution. Why? Because you can't resolve a wrong money into a right money, arguing that no money is the case. Now, if that's the case, I should tell this fellow to, take a hike, go ahead and argue in court that money, all possible concepts of money are against us. Now, if he was intending to do that himself, he would have offered those arguments. But instead, he's looking for a loophole to resolve his debts. He says he himself doesn't want just reward. He said he didn't want any just reward for his contribution to production, the pool of wealth. Well, I allege that's not true. You see, because what we would find is that many people wouldn't even work if we had no accounting system, which compelled them to give up a like measure of their own production for our production. If we were producers, we would find in this imperfect world of imperfect people, we would find that we would have people who just simply wouldn't work, not even of their own volition, and they would want our production. What is wrong with an accounting system then? The accounting system is the only thing which resolves all the possible aberrations or infringements of our rights to receive according to the fruit of our doings. So this is a huge issue. And, of course, we have further problems in these arguments that have been provided. You note he said that very little argument, the judge had noted, and he's been given 15 days to respond, the judge had noted that there's very little argument that he's provided. Well, in truth, that's absolutely so. What is the judge's position here? I don't deduce myself that that there's a red flag that goes up because the judge hasn't raised his contest of the nature of the money. I don't deduce that there's a red flag at all. I see that the judge has perceived that there are flaws here which need to be resolved, and that he has found that both parties have failed to produce the answer. That's what I see. Now, this indicates to me personally that this judge may be a very good judge, a very good person who realizes the incredible global magnitude of his potential decision here. And he needs more of an argument from either side. One side or the other is going to provide whatever argument prevails. That argument may or may not prevail rightly. But what is needed here is a provision of a prevailing argument. Now, to sort all this out for us in the simplest terms, what's happened here is a banking system which hasn't given up lawful consideration, has intervened upon Michael Tillinger's own affairs to pretend to be a creditor and to merely publish evidence of his own promissory obligation and to falsify that into a debt to the banking system. That's their first crime. Their second crime is that they've subjected that falsified debt to interest as if the falsified debt was property at risk of the banking system. We know this can't be so because the banking system never gave up lawful consideration for the falsified debt. They gave up nothing. He received a house instead, for his promissory obligation from the former owner of the house. The bank gave up no lawful consideration. Now the real creditor, indeed, the former owner of the house, was paid in full in that they got a full measure of a volume of money equating to the price they asked for the house. The nature of the promissory obligation, therefore, being as the real creditor has been paid in full, is to retire the principal from circulation at the necessary rate of payment. And the necessary rate of payment has to be the rate of consumption, no less than the rate of consumption of the related property. So this is what all this resolves to. It's not a fact that money can't serve us, again, even in this contest. It's a fact that only a proper accounting for the money serves us. And in that contest, then, yes, indeed, there is no debt to the bank. So then, as Darrell was evidently teaching, or claiming, which is not to teach, because to teach is to give the reasons for all these things. And without the reasons, the problem here is that the judge can't reach a proper resolution, because neither party has provided conclusive arguments. The judge would have to invent mathematically perfected economy himself to resolve this issue, this dispute between two parties. Now, if he did that, the judge would realize himself that the banking system gave up no lawful consideration. It's a question that he needs to ask. And when he finds the answer cannot be given to him because it's obvious that Mr. Tillinger never received property from the bank at all, When the judge discovers this,